Social justice means applying the law equally to all people, but in practice, that doesn't always happen. I'm John Gonzalez. I'm here with my former law partner, Jack DeRora. We practice law, we seek social justice. On this show, we reveal the conflict between the two.
You know, for a while, it was just us in the office over a cup of coffee talking about the news of the day. With social justice issues dominating our culture, our focus became how do we, as lawyers, make a difference?
Today it is just us, Jack. We're going to be talking about Kenya, where you just returned from. My first question is, why Kenya?
Well, you remember we had on our show a few years back a lovely woman by the name of Connie Cherin, who, toward the end of her career as a nurse, just decided she wasn't ready to retire. So she not only did not retire as a nurse and primarily a consultant, but she took on the challenge of creating a nonprofit and providing a number of different sources of assistance to people in Nairobi and other parts of Kenya. So I'd been contributing to Connie's efforts over the years, and I finally thought, I think I got to go over there and see what's happening.
So how did you plan that trip? Were you by yourself most of the time, wandering around, or were you with an organized a group or outfit?
Connie, it was either with Connie or usually with some of her personnel. She's got a number of staff members there. I mean, she has a well-organized group over there. So it was primarily two or three folks named Jeffa, Mary, and sometimes Lucy. And they would take us. I mean, we had an itinerary to see specific parts of what Partners for Care, I'll refer to it as PFC, does. It was very well organized, and I saw a lot.
Are they just in the Nairobi area, or are they throughout Kenya?
I can't say how far dispersed it is or how well dispersed. There are 47 counties in Kenya. They're certainly in counties other than Nairobi, which is the same name as the city Nairobi.
I know when Ann and I were visiting Spain, one of the impediments to learning more about it was the language barrier, because at times there was nobody that spoke English, and we didn't speak Spanish well enough to really get a flavor for it. But when we did run into Spaniards that spoke English, it was wonderful to find out what their city was all about, their lifestyle. How prevalent was English in Kenya?
English is taught in the schools, and certainly the staffers who took us around all spoke English. And on my own little personal jaunts, I encountered a lot of English. But Swahili is the native language. And then when you go out into very rural areas, you'll probably hit a bunch of other dialects.
So what were you hoping to look at or hoping to find out with your trip over there? I know you weren't checking up on Connie and her group, but what were you curious about as you went over there?
Well, you're right. I wasn't there to check up on Connie. I just wanted to learn. And it was a slice of life. It was a slice of life because one of the things that stood out to me was the gratitude of those people who had been served by PFC. And we saw that in a number of ways. But before I actually get to that, I want to refer to a comment that I heard a year or two back on the Smirkani show on CNN that I like a lot there. He has a fellow named Scott Galloway who appears, this business, media, entrepreneur, smart guy. I like him a lot. And he said about a year ago, the best decision I ever made was to be born in the United States. And so that really put into perspective my view of Kenya. So I'm going to digress a little from your question, but I sense that you and I had the same situation growing up. Parents who were concerned, parents who guided us, well-resourced neighborhoods. There was a path, right?
Right.
All we had to do was hit it. All we had to do was work hard, and we were going to be okay. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of risk. It was just going to work.
Sure.
Well, if you grow up in the slums, and that's a word that the Kenyans use, or informal settlements of Nairobi, let me tell you, life is a struggle. And I just thought, oh my goodness, this is really beyond words. But within that society, the people who she serves, they're grateful. They don't take anything for granted. So would you like me to tell you about the kind of things I saw?
Yes, but I'd like to just ask you, when you talk about slums, so, in our country, there's a disparity of income.
No question.
And so I'm thinking of Nairobi, and so far it's the slums of Nairobi. Is Nairobi a modern city at all? Does it have skyscrapers? Does it have...
It has a downtown. It has skyscrapers. It has a Hyatt hotel. And it's got a... Name your other well-known hotels. It has business buildings. Yeah, it looks like a downtown. But even within that, you see images of poverty. And then when you get onto the outskirts and other parts, you'll see a level of poverty that makes what we would call low-income neighborhoods look wealthy.
Mm-hmm. So let's take the slums then. You visited people that live there.
Sure.
Talked to them. What did you see? What were your observations?
Well, the first thing, or the first interaction was with people who were on mobility carts. Now, Kenya has a significant problem with things that are much less of a concern here. Polio, cerebral palsy, collisions. So there is some large number of people, on a percentage basis, I'm confident, larger than the percentage here in the U.S., who just can't get around. So if you can't get around in these low-income areas, you're either staying stuck in your very, very, very modest house, or you're crawling. So these carts are built in the U.S. by a number of facilities. It's pretty simple. It's a wooden cart, 4.5, 5 feet long. It's got a single wheel up front that's powered by a bicycle attached to handles so you can power that front wheel, 2 wheels in the back. And now a person who can't walk can be mobile. So that's good in terms of integration, contact with the community. Also allows these people to, let's say, buy candies and ice treats and sell their product on the streets. Now listen to this. One fellow said that he makes about 7,000 shillings. That's the currency, 7,000 shillings a month. That allows him to pay his bills and get along and buy food. 7,000 shillings is like $55. So what's the median income in Kenya? About $900. What's the median income in the States? About $19,000. So all of a sudden, there's a life-changing event, and that person is smiling because he went from something that's difficult to conceive to he's out and about.
We have safety nets here. We have government assistance. Is it similar there? Does the government help?
I really can't answer that question. I don't know, but go figure. If the median income is $900 a year, how much surplus can there be in the whole system to provide a safety net? It's a good question.
Yeah, because you wonder about, access to health care, access to things like that the government can provide. Didn't see that,
The only health care I saw was a clinic that Connie's group had established. And we went with a doctor and saw her make a few rounds. And when we went into these homes in the slums, it's a room that's maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, a wood floor, very barren, maybe a chair, a table with some dishware of some sort with utensils. Then there'll be a curtain hanging down, and there's another room where people sleep. That's it. No running water. I can't speak to electricity, right? And probably some type of a bathroom, think very primitive, down the walkway to a communal bathroom of sorts.
Do families live together there, or did you see, or is it mostly just individuals? Or
No, we saw families. It was mostly mothers and children. Men were out about, I imagine, working.
what about the educational system? Were you able to see it or talk to anybody about?
They have, as far as I can see, a pretty good public education system, which is free. Now, the kids have to buy their own uniforms, their own books. That was probably the most fun part of the trip because we went to a preschool. Why did we go to a preschool? Not really to see the education, but to see how Connie's group had put what are called water-safe packs in place. Now, bear in mind, most of the water in Kenya is not drinkable. You got to have bottled water, or you have to purify it somehow. And even if you have clean water, you need a way to transport it. Well, people are transporting it in, who knows. Connie uses the term jerry cans, which if you think back to those World War II films,
right.
It's the can that carried gas. Well, who knows what these jerry cans were used for originally. So the water-safe pack is a clean and safe way of transporting water, and Connie wanted us to see that these were in the schools. Well, here's why it was fun. So we go to a preschool with about 300 kids, right? And we walk in there, and there's 300 shining faces, all smiling, and they are juiced to see us. And they're all giving us high fives. You know, you would have thought we were somebody important. It was really good fun.
Mm-hmm. So when I've been to some places of poverty, you get swamped by children looking for handouts, looking for money, looking for anything you could give them. Same way there?
You know, I remember seeing that in Morocco when I was a college kid. And by the way, I quickly learned that the way to figure that out was you hired one of the kids as your guide. Uh-huh. And once you hired one of the kids, you were his property and everything worked out pretty well. I did not see that. We never had people approaching us. Sure, there were some beggars here and now on the street, but it wasn't this automatic approach, when we got out of the car.
What about security? I mean, is this a place that you would have went to in the evening, at night? Were you ever concerned for your safety?
No, I wasn't. I think overall it's pretty safe. Now, it was funny on the tour, this one fellow talked about he wasn't, I think, quite as diligent as I was in getting a hotel. I got a hotel for the very last night. Otherwise, I was with Connie's group. But I think he landed up getting a hotel in the red light district and saying that maybe wasn't the best choice in terms of safety. But overall, I was comfortable wherever I went.
Mm-hmm. Did you get a chance to spend any time in the city then, the more modern areas of Kenya?
I did.
I guess Nairobi.
Yeah, I was in downtown Nairobi for about a day and a half on my own. I went to a museum. I went to the Arboretum. I walked around. That was all pleasant. But otherwise, I was, for lack of a better phrase, on Connie's turf, where she provides services. One of those places, we took a plane ride to Kilifi, which is on the coast, an hour flight. And we went, you got to love this, we take a boat ride up this mango inlet. Very beautiful, right? And we come across a village, I don't know, about 100 moms and kids. And the reason Connie wanted us to see this is because Connie's group had distributed bed nets because malaria is a problem. Also, so that we could see the problem of chiggers, with a J, jiggers. Mm-hmm. Now, people say, oh, you mean chiggers, C-H. I don't know if there's a difference, but she called them jiggers. So these are fleas that bite through the flesh of the foot, lay eggs. Wounds develop, fester. The hatching fleas start stealing nutrients from the body. And if gone untreated, first of all, the flesh looks terrible as a result of this. And if left untreated, it can result in paralysis, amputation. So we went there, and I helped administer, just for my own edification, the fix, which is wash the feet with soap and water and then submerge them in this potassium-based liquid and then rub Vaseline over the feet and then put a plastic glove over the foot. Between the potassium and the Vaseline, the fleas are killed. But it's a serious problem. I mean, can you imagine? That's what goes on. And, this was kind of cute. So I'm in one person's hut. There's a light bulb hanging down. Light bulb? We're in the middle of nowhere. How do you think that light bulb is electrified?
I don't know.
They got a little solar panel.
Oh, yeah.
Right? No running water in that house. No toilet, no nothing. I mean, it's like camping for you and me.
Yeah.
But they were able to afford a solar panel. Apparently, the folks in Kenya didn't get the memo from Trump that green energy is a scam. They like it.
Well, thinking about that for a minute, not just in that tiny village an hour flight away from Nairobi, but what kind of electronics, or did you see internet access, cell phones? I mean, what?
Oh, yes. When I was on a safari, I was with Connie's group for, let's say, 8 days. Then I went on a safari for 3 days. So I was at a campground with the safari group, and there was a TV, and I could watch. I forget what I was. What was I watching? The BBC? I can't recall.
Fox News?
I don't recall Fox News, but I also saw Kenyan TV. Their regular programming, and then I saw that the programming varies from English to Swahili. I don't know if it's on some kind of a cycle, but you would get programs in both language. And of course, I saw news about the nation. You'd see debate concerning issues being handled in the parliament.
Well, what about internet coverage? Were you able to, did you have cell phone?
Oh, sure. We had coverage, not everywhere. So, for instance, I'm on the Masai Mara. So when you watch Neo or the National Geographic and you watch lions chasing zebras, I was in that neighborhood. Well, you're not getting any cell phone coverage there, but in many parts of the country, there's cell phone coverage.
In the slums of Nairobi?
Yeah, there's coverage there. Now, here's what's interesting. Forgive me for interrupting you. Almost everybody we encountered, well, that's a pretty broad statement, but the people I encountered who were using these mobility carts to earn a living, they had cell phones. Maybe not that big of a surprise. But how do you think money was transferred? Through the cell phones, a system they called M-Pesa. Don't know what it means. But it must be something akin to Zelle or Venmo, because that's what they're using. Pretty significant. And I'd be willing to bet, I don't know this for a fact, but it's just a hunch, that if we went to low-resource neighborhoods in Columbus, pick one, I don't know how many people would be dealing with Venmo or Zelle as opposed to cashing their paycheck and walking around with 2 weeks' worth of pay in their pocket.
Well, when you go to almost any community in the States, in Ohio, you'll see kids on cell phones. Mm-hmm. Same there?
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, to be fair, I wasn't always in an area where there are a bunch of junior high school kids, and that's the target we're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
So I can't say.
What about other aspects of the U.S. culture? Did you see them in the Air Jordan shoes or the Nike T-shirts or baseball caps that say Cubs on it or anything?
No, I didn't see any of that. Everybody was dressed, let's say, pretty humbly. I didn't see any of that kind of stuff. But it was interesting. On 2 different occasions, I had 2 different fellows in the slum say, "How's Trump?"
Did they say it in a way that you thought they were supporters of a more conservative America or non-supporters?
The first one, I thought there was a little bit of a non-supporting attitude. The other one liked him, so I said, "Okay, great. Why don't you go to the U.S.? Be my guest."
Well, when I was looking at Kenya and trying to understand more about it, they are an ally of the United States. They do trade with us. And,
Sure.
And I think Trump had hosted the president of Kenya at some point, which was a little surprising to me as the way he usually characterizes African nations.
Oh, yeah.
But for some reason, Kenya, I couldn't find anything negative from our government about it. Are they having some of the same struggles as we're having with the Iran war? That
I can't say it's got to pour over because everybody's dependent on oil, so I just can't speak to that. Taking a little detour from your question, I will say this. Everybody I met was warm and welcoming. People were hospitable. It felt good to be there. How's that?
Were they curious about where you came from and interested in that?
No, they didn't ask that much about that. Well, I let me rephrase. I had one or two people ask about specifically where I came from, and some people would have some knowledge of the states. Probably the best question I had, and I didn't answer it well. We're leaving the slum, and the slum that I showed you before we started talking. And one of the staffers from PFC, Partners for Care, said, "Do you have anything like this in the U.S.?" And I was stumped. I didn't answer it very well. What I said was, and I regret saying it the way I did, was, we don't have poverty of this level. I probably just should have said, we don't have this situation.
Yeah. I know that, again, when Ann and I were traveling last year, some people were interested in, where are you from? And we had to stop saying Ohio.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They just wanted to know the big picture, the United States, and then if they asked more. But I took a little cheap watch that had Ohio State on it.
Oh.
And I told Ann it was a $20 watch. And I said, if I meet somebody that knows about the Buckeyes, a fan, I'm going to give them this watch. And I never ran into anybody, and even was trying towards the end by, we're from the United States, but we're from Ohio. Have you heard of the Ohio State Buckeyes? No. If Ohio State Buckeyes haven't permeated the culture, then they're off the grid. What about the food? Was there something unique to Kenya that you enjoyed, or
there were a couple dishes that stood out to me. One was sort of a cabbage and carrot dish served warm. That was somewhat of a staple. That was delish. A lot of lentils as a side dish. That was delish. I saw with some degree of frequency the kind of circular bread that you see from India. I forget what you call that, naan. I'm not sure if that's the right word. I'm happy to say I did have some goat. That was delicious. A lot of chicken. And, when you went to the more affluent areas, you might find yourself in Nairobi in what looks like an American mall, in a restaurant that looks like a restaurant you'd find in the U.S., and you might get a burger and fries there, or you might get something more traditional.
Well, you mentioned red light district. Do they have alcohol? Is it?
Yeah. I'm happy to say that I tried at least 4 different beers in Kenya. I thought that was part of the cultural experience.
Were you able to eat with any of the families that you met with to see what they might, have as regular meals?
I didn't have that opportunity, but I would guess from some of the meals that I took at the PFC house, I can guess as to what they ate because we had it a few times, which were things that were maybe not all that flavorful, but very filling, a maize type of dish that looked sort of like a cake, but dense. Some other dishes like that were probably just more calories as opposed to being prepared because it was high cuisine, if I'm being clear. I thought one thing that was interesting, if I can interrupt, I saw you were going to ask a question. As much poverty as I saw, I don't know this for a fact, but I would probably have to ask Connie, but my sense is people don't know they're poor. if you go to a family, let's say in Linden, a low-income area, and you got a dad that's making, let's say, $17 an hour, and he's got 2 kids, he's having problems going to the grocery store, right? He's counting his nickels. And so he feels that pressure. I think when you're born in these low-income areas, I don't know, but I just sense it's like, this is life. This is it. I'm not poor. I just am. I think I'm guessing it's a whole different attitude.
Do you think it's more difficult than it is here to be upward mobile, to get out of that circumstance, to increase your social economic status?
Well, certainly people do it. But yeah, I would say it's a tougher challenge. It just has to be.
What about the government? Did you notice how much, I don't know, intervention it had? Police, just government services, from a mailman to inspectors, anything?
Those are really good questions, and those are the sorts of things that I always ask when I have a friend who says, "Oh yeah, my son lives in the Netherlands." Well, what's that look like on day to day?
Right.
So I'm sorry I can't answer that question. I will say this: I don't know if I saw all that many regular police. Saw a lot of armed security guards. I don't know if I ever saw an ambulance. Certainly didn't see any mail carriers. You got to remember, for almost 4 days, I'm out in the field on a safari. For the other 8 days, I'm on sort of a targeted schedule so that I can see Connie's work. So I can't, I didn't have exposure to those things, and those are good questions you ask.
I see that Kenya is renowned for the rich brewed coffee that it has. Were you able to?
I had coffee, and it's interesting. A lot of Kenyans drink instant coffee. It was interesting. More often than not, you'll see instant coffee. I thought it was tasty, but they're not brewing it as frequently unless you go to a coffee shop.
Now, Kenya, if we're looking at the African continent, is kind of the mid-continent east.
To the east.
On the Indian Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I get this feeling like it's hot there, but you tell me. One, was it hot while you were there, or was it unusual?
The equator crosses through Kenya. Now, for a lot of our journeys, we were about 5,000 or 6,000 feet up. It was temperate. Mm-hmm. It really was. It might have been 80 degrees at the hottest, but we've had hotter days in Ohio. Now, I suppose if you go down lower level, it gets brutally hot, but I was comfortable the whole time.
Is Nairobi one of those levels? I mean, is it up in the mountains?
I'm not sure where Nairobi is. I know that when we were in the Maasai, we were about 6,000 feet up.
And what about on safari?
That was the safari.
Okay.
Nairobi, I don't know how high it was, but it certainly was temperate, or temperate by American standards. Now, the Africans, it gets a little cool. They're putting a coat on. It made me chuckle.
Well, what brought that up in my mind as you talk about the living conditions and possibly even the lack of electricity in these. I'm assuming they don't have air conditioning units. And, when it gets brutally hot around here, people suffer and die from it. And it's a big deal. And I just think about the pictures you showed me of these tin structures that they live in, how if it got hot, it would be unbearable.
It would be.
Yeah. I was kind of curious if it's, how hot it gets in Kenya. What else struck you there? I know you had a nice time on safari. Did they seem like they get a lot of tourism because of the safari?
Yeah, that's a big deal, I would think, in terms of income to the nation.
And you weren't on a hunting safari. You were on a watching safari. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, we're just looking. We're not shooting. I would imagine that's a pretty big source of income for the nation. Safaris are well worth the effort. You can do it at different levels. I took the rather modest approach to accommodations. You can live rather almost luxuriously on safaris. But when you're in a car or a Land Cruiser, it seemed like the Toyota Land Cruiser was the vehicle of choice. It's all the same. And those tour operators do a great job. Our fellow was a very good driver, and I say a very good driver because the roads are full of potholes and ruts. In one day, 3 of these Land Cruisers, actually within a span of a couple hours, 3 Land Cruisers got stuck in the mud. This was part of the rainy season. And those fellows, they're all brothers. One guy gets stuck, everybody's there to help the other guy. One guy sees a line, he tells everybody else. Everybody flows. So it's a nice fraternity of tour guides, and our fellow did a great job.
Did you come into contact or learn about other groups that are there to provide any other way to say it, charity help to the Kenyans?
Yeah, that was I only know of Connie's group. Got to believe there are others. I like Connie's approach because, she's not there. The way she expresses it, she's not there to tell the Kenyans what they need. She's there to listen. Okay, what do you folks need? How can we help you? And they determine the agenda. And so it is that, the water safe packs, sewing schools for women. And by the way, this was interesting. We actually went to the places where some of the sewing school graduates are, and I looked at the work of one of the women. Beautiful. So it really works, and now this woman has an income. Prior to that, I don't know what she was doing, but now she's a regular businesswoman.
I'm kind of curious, and I wish I would have done some research on the effect, how much U.S. aid they were receiving before we decided to terminate that program, and, how much help Kenya and the other countries, because when you look at the countries that border Kenya, I mean, they're all, poor. You would think of them as poor countries: Somalia,
Tanzania,
Uganda.
Ethiopia,
yeah,
the whole place.
Right, and when you go there, I mean, did you get a sense when you think about, boy, it would have been nice if the United States could continue to help countries like this?
Well, sure. I think healthcare alone is an easy way to see a return on your investment. The fact that there are so many people with mobility problems, the fact that there are kids inflicted with chiggers, those are all easy fixes. To cure a kid of chiggers doesn't cost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. To give a kid a pair of shoes or to teach him how to spray this solution around the perimeter of his hut doesn't cost much. So you get a big bang for the dollar. So the approach that our government has taken is wrongheaded in terms of a great efficiency for the dollar and soft power in terms of influence. We missed the boat.
And I have to guess that as much good as Connie's organization is doing, there's a lot more to be done.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm just, it's great that you went. What you bring back, what are you going to do with that? Have you thought?
I think the only thing, unless some great profound idea falls from high, I just continue to support Connie. Maybe people will hear about it through me or what I posted on Facebook and be interested in contributing. But maybe the best thing, and this is very general, is, it furthered my notion of gratitude. Because I could have been born in that slum. Really. Mm-hmm. It was just luck of the draw. So I think being grateful is a pretty important attitude. I think when we are grateful, that serves us in ways that I can't articulate explicitly. But certainly when you have a grateful attitude, you're probably just a little more balanced, open-minded. I think it's just a good attitude. That's maybe hard for some people to appreciate, but I believe in it.
Well, welcome back, my friend. I'm glad you're safe, and I'm glad you enjoyed your trip. Thanks for sharing.
It was a good trip. I enjoyed it. And I am very grateful that we have people like Connie. Our thanks to WOSU and our sound engineer, Dalton Jones. If you like what you've heard, tell a friend. We want it to be more than just us. We want it to be all of us. Like us, follow us, submit a review, help elevate our profile so that other podcast listeners can find us. We'll be back shortly with another important social justice subject. Until then, so long.